You are standing on a cracked road in rural Pennsylvania. The asphalt is warm beneath your shoes. Not sun warm, not summer warm. Something is burning directly below you. Beneath the abandoned town of Centralia, a coal seam fire has been burning since 1962. Over 60 years. No one can stop it. No one knows when it will end. And Centralia is not alone. Across the planet, thousands of underground fires burn right now beneath towns, beneath forests, beneath farmland. In China, in India, in Indonesia, in Australia. Some have burned for centuries. One has burned for 6,000 years. They are invisible, nearly impossible to extinguish, and far more common than you think. How does a fire burn underground, where there is no open flame, no visible smoke, no oxygen? And once it starts, why can't anyone put it out? The answer begins with what coal actually is. Coal is not a mineral. It is ancient plant matter, forests, ferns, and swamp vegetation that died, compressed, and transformed over hundreds of millions of years into a dense, carbon-rich fuel. When you heat coal in the presence of even a tiny amount of oxygen, it ignites. And once it is burning, coal does not need much air to sustain itself. It generates its own heat. It creates its own air currents. A coal seam fire can reach temperatures above 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit and burn through solid rock the way a candle burns through wax, slowly, silently, and for far longer than anything you have ever imagined. This is not a metaphor. This is happening beneath the earth right now. In Centralia, the most widely accepted account traces the fire to May of 1962. The town was preparing for Memorial Day. Workers set fire to trash in an open pit near the entrance to an abandoned strip mine. The pit connected to a network of old mine shafts, tunnels that ran directly beneath the homes, roads, and buildings of the town. The fire entered the mines. It found the coal, and in the oxygen-rich environment of the old shafts, it spread. The first signs were easy to miss. Basements grew warm. The soil in certain yards stayed dry no matter how much it rained. Residents noticed steam rising from cracks in the ground during cold mornings, but the fire moved slowly at first, and most people carried on with their lives. Then, in 1979, a local gas station owner named John Coddington checked his underground fuel storage tanks. When he pulled up his thermometer, it read 172 degrees Fahrenheit. The ground beneath his business was cooking from below. By 1981, the danger became impossible to deny. A 12-year-old boy named Todd Demboski was walking near his grandmother's house when the earth collapsed beneath his feet. He fell into a sinkhole, a void created as the underground fire consumed the coal and the ground above it gave way. The hole was roughly 15 feet deep. Steam and carbon monoxide surged upward from below. Todd grabbed a tree root and held on. His cousin heard his screams and pulled him out. The temperature of the air in that sinkhole was estimated at over 1,000 degrees. If he had not caught that root, he would have fallen into a burning cavity with no bottom. That was the moment everything changed. In 1983, the United States Bureau of Mines sent a team of engineers to Centralia to assess the fire. Their findings were grim. The fire had already spread across hundreds of acres of coal veins beneath the town. It was branching in multiple directions, following seams of coal that extended for miles in every direction. The fuel load beneath Centralia was enormous, enough to sustain the fire for another century, perhaps longer. The cost of a full extinguishment effort was estimated at hundreds of millions of dollars. Most experts believed it was simply not possible. The fire could not be reached, it could not be flooded, it could not be starved of air. By 1992, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania invoked eminent domain. Residents were forced to abandon their homes. Buildings were demolished. The zip code was revoked by the United States Postal Service. The population of Centralia, once nearly 2,000, dropped to fewer than 10 holdouts who refused to leave. Today, Centralia is a ghost town. The roads are fractured and buckling. Cracks in the asphalt release plumes of hot steam and toxic gas. The smell of sulfur hangs in certain areas. And beneath the empty streets, the fire continues to burn consuming coal that has been forming since the Carboniferous period, over 300 million years ago. But Centralia is just one fire. In China, underground coal fires burn across the northern provinces of Inner Mongolia and Xinjiang. A comprehensive study by the United States Geological Survey found that China's coal seam fires consume an estimated 200 million tons of coal per year. That is roughly equal to the total annual coal consumption of Germany. burned uselessly underground, releasing carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and methane directly into the atmosphere. In the Jeria coalfield of eastern India, an underground fire has been burning since 1916, over a century. Villages above the fire have been relocated as the ground subsides and toxic gases seep into homes. Children in the region suffer elevated rates of bronchitis, asthma, and respiratory disease. The Indian government has spent decades attempting to contain the fire with limited success. In Indonesia, peat fires ignite across Sumatra and Kalimantan during every dry season. Peat, partially decomposed organic matter, is extraordinarily flammable when dry and burns underground in exactly the same way coal does. In 2015, Indonesian peat fires created a haze crisis across all of Southeast Asia. A study by Guido van der Werf and colleagues, published in the journal Environmental Research Letters, estimated those fires released 1.62 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide, more than the entire annual emissions of Japan. And in Australia, a coal seam fire known as Burning Mountain has been burning for an estimated 6,000 years. It moves south at roughly 1 meter per year. It is the oldest known underground fire on Earth, and it was burning long before any written language existed. So why can't we put them out? The answer is brutally simple. You cannot douse an underground fire the way you would a campfire. The volume of water required is staggering. When water is pumped into a coal seam fire, it often evaporates before it reaches the combustion zone, generating superheated steam that expands underground, builds pressure, and can cause violent surface blowouts. In some cases, the water simply flows around the fire, following the path of least resistance through fractures and voids, never touching the burning coal at all. Fire breaks, physically removing the coal ahead of the fire's leading edge, can work, but only when the fire's path is known and the seam is accessible. Underground fires branch through labyrinthine networks of veins and shafts. The fire does not move as a wall. It moves as a web, sending fingers of heat in every direction, finding new fuel in places no one predicted. And oxygen starvation, cutting off the air supply, fails because the fire sustains its own airflow. The intense heat draws fresh oxygen downward through cracks and fissures through convection. The fire, in effect, breathes. It inhales through the cracks in the earth and exhales toxic gas. This is what makes underground fires fundamentally different from everything you associate with fire. A forest fire is a disaster. A house fire is an emergency. Both have a beginning, a peak, and an end. An underground fire is not an event. It is a process. It does not roar. It does not flash. It simply moves inch by inch, year by year, century by century, through fuel that has been waiting for hundreds of millions of years to burn. Here is what should change: how you think about the ground beneath you. There are an estimated thousands of uncontrolled coal seam fires burning across 6 continents right now. Many are in remote, unmonitored locations. Some have no names. Some are beneath active communities where people live, sleep, and raise children, unaware that the earth beneath their homes is slowly being hollowed out by heat. The United States Geological Survey has cataloged hundreds of coal seam fires across the American West, in Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, and West Virginia. Many have burned for decades. None are actively being fought. The coal burns, the ground shifts, the gas seeps, and the fire advances. The lesson of Centralia is not about bad luck or a single mistake in 1962. It is about the patience of fire. We think of fire as fast, as violent, as something that flares and dies. But beneath the surface of this planet, fire operates on a timescale that makes human lifespans irrelevant. It does not need you to notice it. It does not need you to fight it. It only needs coal and a trace of oxygen, and it will burn until there is nothing left to burn. The ground beneath your feet, press down, feel it. How warm is it?